everyone. Welcome back to this episode of the Play On podcast, episode 9. In this part, we're going to take a look at the Connacht Semi Final between Galway and Roscommon, which Galway won by 2 goals and 11 points to 12 points. The conditions in this game made it an absolute graft. It seemed to play into Roscommon's hands a little bit, making it a battle. They found it quite hard to get their big players like Shane Walsh into the game too much. He was being man-marked really heavily by Brian Stack as well, to give credit to Stack. But, Roscommon played very deep, very defensively. You could definitely see the Stephen Poacher effect on their team. But, it didn't get them the win. Galway managed to get over the line, 2-11 to 12 points, in no small part to Matthew Tierney, who was outstanding throughout the game and got the goal, which finished Roscommon off. Luke, what did you make of this game?
Yeah, it was kind of funny one. Like you already described, like the weather was absolutely atrocious, which obviously can't help the spectacle that's going to follow. And then, as well, Roscommon really looked like they just went out to frustrate Galway, and it was it didn't make for great entertainment, but look, it was just job done for Galway, I suppose. And I suppose the main thing to take from this, from my perspective, was the kind of the young talent that's coming through in Galway. The two kind of championship debutants, Paul Kelly and Matthew Tierney, I thought were the two shining lights really, and I thought they were two best players on the pitch. So that's the big positive for Galway to take from this.
Yeah, definitely. And Matthew Tierney's free taking is outstanding. It was a real moment when he took over the frees from Shane Walsh, who had missed a couple, and his free taking was outstanding. He hit 3 frees, which were just outrageous, considering the conditions, the angle, the distance, everything. He is a mercurial talent, this guy. One man of the match, deservedly so. I had him down as my man of the match as well. What could be more concerning for Galway is, of course, Shane Walsh was kept pretty quiet by Stack. And then, of course, he pulls up injured.
Yep, absolutely. That was it, because he seemed to have this problem kind of with the hamstring for a while, and then he wasn't taken off immediately, and then eventually did hobble off. And look, with a kind of a potential Connacht final against Mayo looming, like that's the last thing they wanted to see. And they'd be going into that game against a Mayo team, but that would be without the O'Connors, and they'd be eyeing that, like with their forward line that they've developed. They really, really wanted Shane Walsh there to kind of outscore Mayo, but they'll be praying that he kind of recovers, I suppose. But look, they just have to. The whole thing is that teams want to develop their panel, and look, I was hugely impressed with Paul Kelly in corner forward for them. Especially there was the score where he took the ball one-handed on the end line, cut back inside and hand passed over the bar. I just thought he looked like a natural kind of inside forward, and that's exactly what Galway have needed, really. Kind of they needed an injection kind of youth coming in. And you look at the last year's All-Ireland under winning 20 side, the talents like your man Tomo Culhane in there, who didn't even get a run at the weekend as well to come through. So look, there is a lot to build on for Galway, and the next few years they could build quite a nice side there if these fellas continue to develop.
Yeah, and they have to have patience with these fellas coming through, and I think Pádraig Joyce is definitely the man to bring them into the team and nurture them to the best players that they can be. Another player who was huge for Galway was Sean Kelly from cornerback. His attacking was outstanding. Dylan McHugh had a very good game at centre half back for them as well. Kieran Malloy is finally getting recognised as one of Galway's best players. He was one of their best players for years with Corofin, and for some reason Kevin Walsh just didn't want to play him. But, he started at wing back there, and his pace was the one that was punching the holes in the Roscommon rear guard, a very defensive team. And that sums up Roscommon. This year they only averaged 14 scores in the league. They hit 12 points on the weekend there. And you could definitely see that it was definitely a defensive game. They were definitely scared to go, man for man against Galway and make an attacking game, because they know they can't match up to the forwards that Galway have. So I do think that approach for Roscommon, to be brutally honest, is the only way that they can beat Galway, is to make it a scrap, is to make it a slugfest, and then to try and nick the victory, because I think Galway just have better footballers than them.
Yeah, that probably is. And Roscommon at the weekend they were hugely reliant on Enda Smith again, kind of stepping up with 3 points. And I suppose they'll be disappointed though with kind of the outcome from, like, Conor Cox didn't score. Dermot Murta kicked a point, and Kieran Murta only hit a point from a free as well. So look, I do think if you list, like, with those forwards listed out, and we haven't even talked about Downey Smith yet, those forwards should be probably contributing more to the scoreline than they did at the weekend. And yeah, like they got 4 of their scores came from their back line as well. And yeah, when your scores, you have as many scores coming from your backs as your forward line, like, that is a concern, especially considering the talent's there. So it's a little bit frustrating watching it, that when you've got an inside forward like Conor Cox for him to be kind of that starved of service, and to not have kind of opportunities to show his talent, it's a bit frustrating from Roscommon. And I don't know, maybe some of the supporters will be a bit disappointed that they can't express themselves a little bit more. If they're going to go out the championship, they probably would have preferred to have given it a bit more of a go than they did, I suppose. But yeah, I suppose, look, that's the way they approach the game. And maybe if that's what management felt gave them the best chance of the game, then fair enough, I suppose. But I feel like they do forwards to probably to challenge Galway in other ways. But that's just my personal opinion on it.
Yeah, but interesting enough, they took those forwards off. Conor Cox was taken off with plenty of time left. Dermot Murta was taken off in the 51st minute as well. You know, if they're your shooters, if they're your key men, you don't take them off. It doesn't matter how badly they're playing. You don't take them off, because, you know, Dermot Murta is the type of player who can be playing badly and then stick one in the back of the net out of nowhere. You don't take that guy off, especially when you have to lose Cathal Craig, who came in and got an injury, went straight back off. You need your leaders on the pitch. Murta's been a huge player for them over the last few years. Conor Cox shot the lights out a couple of years ago against Galway as well. You leave these guys on because they do have a bit of magic about them. And when they were taken off, all of a sudden, that Roscommon forward line looked very, very ordinary.
Yeah, absolutely. And that game was still very much in the balance kind of when that decision was made. Like, it wasn't even like as if Galway were pulling away and something drastic was needed. So it's a strange old decision, I suppose. And especially in a game when chances are kind of so at such a premium for you, like, to have a sharpshooter like Conor Cox who can score from anywhere. I don't know. Yeah, it's surely there's value in keeping him on the pitch. But look, yeah, that was the decision that was made, I suppose, at the time. And yeah, look, it's going to be another kind of frustrating year for Roscommon, where they experience yet another Division 1 relegation and then kind of exit the championship at a fairly early stage. So yeah, not a whole lot to write about for them this year.
Yeah. A huge part for Galway is the goalkeeper that I'm interested in. Of course, you know, Conor Gleeson, you know, played with Galway United in the soccer, and now he plays for them in Galway and Gaelic football. How did you think he did? I thought he looked pretty good.
Yep, I'd completely agree. I think kickouts are a huge thing for him as well. That's kind of a big area which is drastically improved for Galway. They've had their problems kind of with goalkeepers. They never settled on a permanent goalkeeper in the last couple of years. Like, they never had an established number one, and there was kind of a lot of rotation between fellas. But it seems like Gleeson, he's going to be the first choice all year now. They've kind of selected him as the number one. They're going to back him. So yeah, I think look, to kind of have a bit of certainty around that position is absolutely huge. And once that you have a fella that you know is going to consistently be in goal, there you can continue to work from there. And that's like that. Every team, I think, needs to have certainty surrounding their goalkeeping position. So that's a big plus for Galway. And yeah, look, I think overall they're in pretty good shape going into a game against Mayo in the Connacht Final. It's a hard one to call that because look, we don't know fully where they're at kind of with injuries and everything like that as well. But they had a solid enough start to Connacht, albeit against poor enough opposition. So it's yeah, it's a really, really hard one to know where both these teams are kind of at.
Yeah, definitely. And very interestingly as well, you know, the amount of players that Joyce is, you know, he's flushed out the team of any player that he doesn't want, and he's brought through a lot of youngsters, as we've said. There were only 3 starters at the weekend from the same match 2 years ago. So Galway have completely changed the team under Pádraig Joyce. So this will take time to settle them all in. Interesting enough, it was definitely their pace, because as we've said, Roscommon had all 14 players inside their own defence any time that Galway had the ball in the first half, it was pace that, would rip Roscommon apart. Sean Kelly, his dash and run just took Roscommon apart. He managed to get it into Peter Cook, who hand passed it across to Paul Daly for the goal. It was the same with a point in the second half. Shane Walsh just injected that bit of pace and then set up Rob Finnerty for your great score. That's how you beat a blanket defence. Time your runs and the bursts of pace with men coming off the shoulder. Johnny Heaney did it brilliantly in the first half. He punctured a little bit of a hole, dragged Roscommon players to him. Then Damien Comer came on the loop. His first start in the championship since 2018, by the way, which is outstanding. Patience for him to await those injuries and to come back strong. But that's how you beat the blanket defence. Punch the hole and have people coming on support runs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something they've probably we've seen Dublin do so effectively in previous years. And I think, look, teams know how to beat blanket defences now. Like, we've seen so much of blanket defences that teams know how to get by it. And so that's why it's kind of weird. A bit of a throwback, kind of seeing Roscommon going back to being so negative about it, really. But usually teams kind of integrate now an attacking plan from that blanket defence to break out quickly as well, and you're seeing everything kind of moving in unison as well. But we didn't fully see that from Roscommon at the weekend, which kind of leads to a more frustrating spectacle, I suppose, a little bit. But look, job done for Galway, so they'll be delighted with that.
Yeah, definitely. And it was the second goal for Galway, Matthew Tierney's goal, which finished Roscommon off. Very, very scrappy goal. The ball bounced around. Matthew Tierney went to hand pass it across to one of the Galway forwards. It was blocked. Sean Kelly managed to toe poke it through to Matthew Tierney, who finished it well on the ground. But for Roscommon, to concede a goal like that is very disappointing.
Yeah, it was a bizarre sequence of play. It seemed to be Galway had a complete overlap. I had got in for a complete overlap, and it looked like they absolutely butchered the goal scoring chance. And I suppose it just bobbled around her a little bit, and then I suppose we finally saw a bit of composure when Matthew Tierney, I suppose, buried it. But it was a real bizarre sequence of play. But it was probably a deserved goal for Galway and made the scoreline kind of reflect what the game actually was.
Yeah, definitely. And as we've stated now, a Connacht final between Galway and Mayo is looming, providing that Leitrim can't stop Mayo. But how do you see Galway going into that now? Do you see them in a better place than they were last year?
Yeah, look, these games are always kind of tight, and I think I expect that trend to continue. I do think it'll be within a goal. Kind of the outcome, it always seems to kind of go down to like the last few minutes where a team takes over. Look, it's very hard to know what Mayo kind of like. They will be without the O'Connors, but like you see the likes of Darren McHale stepped up. But it's one thing kind of stepping up against Sligo. Whether he can do it against a kind of a tougher Galway defence, that remains to be seen. So it's I find this one very, very difficult. I probably still would have Mayo as my favourites. That's who I backed before the All Ireland, and I'm probably still edged towards Mayo, but I think there is plenty of positives for Galway, especially kind of young talents. Whether that's kind of going to be more kind of fruitful next season is another matter, kind of, I suppose. So it'd be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I truly think it's flip a coin. I don't think either of these sides are better than the other right now, especially with the injuries that Mayo have and the injury concerns that Galway have, whether Shane Walsh should be fully fit. I truly think it's very, very hard to tell. Just before we finish talking about this game, I want to give a big shout out to Niall Daly, who managed to rip pretty much every single stitch out of Peter Cook's jersey. Never seen someone rip a jersey so professionally in my life. Proper GAA handbags, and proper shows the rivalry between these two counties.
Yeah, the Roscommon, they've been the Dailies in particular have been they become very, very good at the shirt ripping. But look, it's classic Connacht Championship of suppose football, and these games have kind of become renowned for handbags and stuff in them. And this game's no different at the weekend.
Yeah, definitely. It was a very funny little handbag. And then seeing Peter Cook, the absolute size of Peter Cook compared to Niall Daly. Peter Cook's an absolutely towering man. And to see that Niall Daly just wasn't backing down, fair play to him. But Peter Cook was then given Sean Andy O'Callaghan's jersey, which shows that not a chance with Sean Andy. Galway's nailed on fullback under Kevin Walsh. Not a chance with Sean Andy getting on. And then eventually Peter Cook was given the number 27 jersey. But, definitely shows that, every team, and it's great to see, championship football back at that level, and to show the passion between the two counties again. Was long awaited, and I'm glad to see it back. So, guys, that is a review of the Galway versus Roscommon game. Don't forget to catch up on all our other reviews across the weekend.